After the Baylor and TCU games, I don't think anybody saw that coming. But the Red Raiders, as they always do, even when we criticize them, fight till the bitter end, and this time it pays off in a stunner. Texas Tech upsets number 11 Iowa State 23-22 up in Ames. And in today's video, we'll recap the game and how the Texas Tech defense and Tim DeRuyter absolutely shined. The Texas Tech offense made some timely plays, and Joey McGuire's emotional post-game speech. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. And if you were excited about that Texas Tech victory, I just want you to do one thing for me. Like the video, because this feels like this could be a turning point, right? You lose that game against TCU in a fashion that deserved criticism, right? Rightfully so. But when you criticize people, you should be able to give them their flowers. And Texas Tech and this football program deserved their flowers after that performance up in Ames, Iowa. It was gritty. It was ugly. Everybody was sliding around. But in the end, all you need to do in order to win the game is have one more point. And Texas Tech had one more point than Iowa State, a previously undefeated team. So if you're excited about this Texas Tech victory, like the video. All right, let's jump right into this. And as I mentioned, Texas Tech in this defense, I mean, just round of applause, Tim DeRuyter. Round of applause. We've been critical all year, and not just me. I feel like a lot of people in the Texas Tech Red Raider Nation, right? Like, rightfully so. I get it. This defense has not been good. They came into this game averaging, giving up 36 points per game. Worst in the Big 12 by a pretty substantial margin, okay? This defense balled out, and this was an Arizona-type performance by the Red Raiders. And what do I mean by that? Against the Wildcats out in Tucson about a month ago now, you saw Tim DeRuyter scheme up multiple blitz packages that included the linebackers, guys in the secondary, off the edge, right? He did similar things to Rocco Becht in this Iowa State Cyclones offense and really created pressure and created turnovers off of those pressures. But let's jump into this, because the star of the game, really for either side of the football, in my opinion, you could go probably two ways, but in my opinion, it's pretty clear-cut. Jacob Rodriguez is making a claim to be an all Big 12 linebacker. And I'm not talking about the second team or anything like that. I'm talking about first team. He was sensational against Iowa State. Arguably the best player on the field for any side of the football for either team. He was unreal in Ames, Iowa. 13 tackles, 9 solo, 2 sacks, 2.5 tackles for loss. Oh, and by the way, he forced a fumble. The Tech defense was getting consistent pressure on Rocco Becht and the Iowa State Cyclones. And really, it started with the interior of the defensive line, an area that this team has struggled with in terms of creating pressures and really getting home in terms of finishing those said pressures with sacks or tackles for loss. That's where Texas Tech has struggled. They did a phenomenal job against the Cyclones. Simple and plain. When you look at the secondary, I thought they played pretty well. There were a couple times where I was yelling at the TV, and I'm sure you were too. Who's teaching these guys how to tackle? But at the end of the day, they played and kept Texas Tech in this game when the offense, which we'll talk about here in just a second, was pretty bad for about 40 minutes of game time. And when I say pretty bad, you're going to hear the numbers here in a second. They were pretty bad is a nice way to put it. But 6 tackles for loss in this game for the Red Raiders. This defense is the reason you won. There's no doubting that or questioning it. They kept the Red Raiders in this game from start to finish, created pressures, created tackles for loss, and gave fits and created nightmare-type situations for the Iowa State Cyclones offense. Now, the Iowa State Cyclones offense isn't one that's going to be rave reviews or anything like that, but they're a solid offense, and the Texas Tech defense made them look pedestrian for a majority of this game and really kept the Red Raiders in this one. This was a bend, don't break performance by Tim DeRuyter's crew. And honestly, I maybe it's recency bias, and call me out in the comments if you want. I think this is probably the best defensive performance given the 2 weeks prior in the Tim DeRuyter era for this Texas Tech defense. I mean, they were sensational up in Ames, Iowa. All right, before we get into the offensive recap, give me your one word to describe this Texas Tech 23-22 upset victory of previously unbeaten number 11 Iowa State. I mean, I'll give you mine here at the end here in a little bit, but let me hear from you guys down on the pinned comment below. And while you're down there, you might as well like the video if you're excited about this Texas Tech dub. Heading back to Lubbock to face off against Coach Prime on Saturday afternoon out in the 806. All right, let's jump into the offensive side of this. And it was, in my notes, I said it was a roller coaster. That's probably too nice of a way to put it. At one point in this game, about midway through the third quarter, don't know the exact time, but about midway through the third quarter, Texas Tech had 162 yards of total offense. 121 of that came on the first two drives. Remember, I said we were midway through the third quarter, people. Not good. Taj, however, was great. Yet again in this game, having another 100-yard effort for the Red Raiders star back. He is now 120 yards away from becoming the all-time leading rusher in Texas Tech program history. He has a really good chance to do it at home against Coach Prime in the Colorado Buffaloes. Now, for the negative, a little bit. I thought Baron Morton missed multiple deep balls in this one, including two on the final drive where I'm not going to get too nitpicky because it did result in a touchdown with less time. And we know we've seen Texas Tech defensively, even in a game where they were great, I think, against Iowa State, have given up big plays with little to no time, right? He missed multiple deep balls looking for Josh Kelly, Jordan Brown. He missed one to Caleb Payday Douglas early on. And it probably cost Texas Tech at least one touchdown. Now, there was one OPI call against Clay Aiken, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, nudge. If you were listening to the announcer, Dusty Dvorak there, he then corrected himself and said Coy Aiken in the second half. But I did find it funny that the American Idol star from, well, about 20 years ago was playing wide receiver for Texas Tech for the first half. Anyway, I digress. There was an egregious OPI call on Coy Aiken that did take off some points, but the really big factor in this game was just Texas Tech offensively disappearing for about 40 minutes of game time. Let me read this stat off to you. Taj had 0 or 1 carry on 7 of the first 8 drives against Iowa State. The lone exception was the first drive of the game. On the next 7 drives, he had a combined 4 carries for 4 yards over 37 minutes of game time. It's about 37 and a half minutes to be exact. Texas Tech scored 3 points on those 7 drives, including 3 3-and-outs, 1 4-and-out, and 2 INTs. This offense is built around RPOs and play action. I had multiple people on Twitter and over on Scarlet and Black Insider saying, RC, why would they run if there's everyone within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage? It's a respect thing. This is where your offense is the best. If you make the defense respect Taj Brooks and have them take that first step downhill, that allows your offense to have the potential for big plays. Now, some will say Barron missed on those big plays. I can agree on that in some regards, but he also hit on them too. But it makes it easier for Baron Morton, where he has proven that he is a much more improved quarterback and better efficiency-wise when the RPO and play action is used at a high rate. And when you disregard the run, again, only 4 carries for Taj Brooks on 7 drives. That's inexcusable. That has to be better if you're Zach Kittley. And I'm not saying you got to give the ball to Taj every damn play. I'm not saying that. But you need to have him at least somewhat involved in the action on damn near every play, because it makes life easier for guys like Josh Kelly, for Caleb Payday Douglas, Coy Aiken, Jalen Conyers. The list goes on and on and on. That's the beauty of this Texas Tech offense when it's really going, okay? And that's really what was frustrating in terms of Zach Kittley getting away from those RPOs and that play action passing game that Texas Tech is so good at. And again, this is going to sound like a knock on Baron Morton. It's not. I don't know if Baron Morton is the most talented quarterback in the world, but I do think he's really good in this system, again, when they use the RPO and play action at a high rate, just to make the defense even more because you know this defense that Texas Tech is playing, regardless of who's on the opposite side. It could be Iowa State, Baylor, TCU, whatever. They respect Taj Brooks. Make them take that first step downhill or at least hesitate. And that will open things up, and Barron has shown that he can capitalize on that. One more thing on the offensive side that really caught my eye that I think Texas Tech needs to be better at is they're still undisciplined. This team really needs to get better. They had 8 penalties in this one, multiple false starts. One most notably where I thought Caleb Rogers in his false start with about 30 seconds left in this game on the Iowa State 1 pushed it back to the 6-yard line where Taj Brooks, after a sensational Jalen Conyers block, gets a 6-yard TD to go up in this game by 1 point with 19 seconds remaining. I thought that false start could potentially cost Texas Tech this game. They've had too many times where they've had big plays, and then in the next play or two, they have an infraction penalty. That's got to stop. That's a coaching issue, in my opinion, and these guys have to settle down, or there needs to be an adjustment to see, because it feels like to me, and I'd have to go look at the numbers. This is just me talking off the dome here, so please prove me wrong if you have the data. It feels like Texas Tech gets a lot of these infraction penalties when they go quick. Okay. And if they slow it down just a hair, you don't got to slow it down to turtle speed, but you also don't got to go Sonic the Hedgehog speed, right? You know what I mean? There's a happy medium there. And they need to figure that out. All right. I want to preface this video of Joey McGuire and his post-game speech by saying this. You have every right in the world to be critical of Joey McGuire and his on-field decisions. Lord knows I have. Okay. And I will continue to be. I hold these guys accountable, and I think that that's okay to do as a fan of Texas Tech football. I think it is okay for you to do the same thing within reason, right? Don't be a dick about it. And you know if you're being a dick about it. And I'm not saying you are, but you know when you see those comments like, hey, dude, chill out, you know? You can be critical. That means you care, okay? There is a line. But there is one thing I will never question about Joey McGuire, okay? There is one thing I will never question about this man. He cares a lot, a hell of a lot. He cares about his players, his coaches, Texas Tech University, and the fans a shit ton. And that care factor cannot go unnoticed, okay? That's what I wanted to preface this by. Let's take a look at this video of Joey McGuire in his post-game press conference, or I guess post-game on the field talk with ESPN.
Go to Taylor, standing by with Coach McGuire.
Thank you. Coach, you come to Ames, Iowa, and upset the number 11 team in the country. How?
The guy, oh, God dang. I'm so proud of these guys. You know, we had a really rough week last week, you know, and losing right at the end. And, you know, we had so many opportunities, and tonight, again, we had opportunities, and we came here. We won a game. My first year, we got bowl eligible in Ames, Iowa. And my third year, we get bowl eligible in Ames, Iowa. I'm really proud of our guys.
I can hear the emotion in your voice. What brings out that emotion?
Just because, you know, people don't understand what these guys go through. People don't understand the stuff that they see on social media, and they take it to heart because they love this fan base. And when we're criticized, we get it. We should be whenever we're not doing our job. But, man, I'm just so proud because a lot of these guys, they take it to heart, and they could at any point quit, and they didn't.
And you have to be proud of Taj Brooks. You told me at half you wanted to feed him. What about him makes him so reliable that with the game on the line, 6-yard line, you hand it off to him?
Yeah, you know, he's so special. He's got great vision. He's so hard to tackle. He's patient when he needs to be. He gets behind his pads when he needs to be. And I'm telling you, no matter what would have happened, all he cares about is winning this game. So he's got a record that we're chasing. We're trying to be the number 1 back in Texas Tech history. We're trying to go get Hanspard's record, but he doesn't care. He just wants to win.
And you guys bowl eligible. So how do you celebrate that?
Well, we're gonna take 24 hours like we do all the time, and then we're gonna get ready for a big game next week against a great football team and a good friend of mine, Deion Sanders. It's gonna be fun in Lubbock next week.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much,
Dave.
And then there were 6. That's the number of undefeated teams left in FBS as Iowa State loses for the first time in 2024, 23-22 to Texas Tech.
I mean, again, what is there to say after that? You can be critical of his on-field decisions. You can be critical of some of the times that he answers the questions the way that he does. But in the end, he genuinely cares about his players, coaches, and the university and fan base of Texas Tech University. And again, I'll say I may not agree with him on everything, but damn it, I will go to bat for that man if anybody questions his care factor. There's no doubt he's the right guy for Texas Tech in this critical moment for Texas Tech football in this program. And yes, recency bias may be involved in that. But if you watch that interview that I just showed and you can look me in the eyes and say that Joey McGuire doesn't give a shit, I don't know what the hell you're watching. Again, the big news for Texas Tech football. They upset number 11 Iowa State up in Ames, the land of bridges. Bring the bridges on home back to the 806 as Texas Tech improves to 4-2 in the Big 12 and now will set their sights on another top 25 matchup against Coach Prime, Shedeur Sanders, and Travis Hunter out in the 806 for an afternoon matchup between two, top half of the Big 12 teams and teams that are looking for a chance to play in Arlington for a chance at a Big 12 title. I'm RC Maxfield reminding you, if you haven't already, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to stay in the know on all things Texas Tech football all year long. And damn it, don't forget, it's always a great day to be a Red Raider.